It's interesting to me that in 2008, essential oils had a purpose, and the generalized purpose that was associated with it is that they were positioned as good aromatherapy additives. In 2025, we see something very different. They're a part of an innovated and an expectation for health and wellness, and have moved well beyond the confines of where they once originally stood. I'm glad some of you are excited about that. Wait, there's more. In 2008, there was some acceptance of the essential oil, but there was a lot of hesitancy as well. And the hesitancy was focused in the idea that there was not a lot of evidence. The scientific and the medical communities were uneasy with essential oils, claiming that there was nothing to validate their use and they were anecdotal. Here we are now in 2025, and there's a growing use of essential oils as evidence-based therapies in hospitals, direct with patient care, with doctors and physicians around the world. Do you recognize that this is what you have participated in for all of these years? The change that we're creating in the world is dynamic, and it now needs to move forward. And so this morning I pose a simple question: that what does it mean to actually be healthy? What does it mean to have health, and how do we define that? Certainly that carries with it a lot of individual disposition based on our experience, based on our knowledge, and based on the outcomes and the expectations that we have for ourselves. This is one of the most powerful dynamics that exists within doTERRA, that we can be involved in the process of our health. And the time for what you and I know is now more prevalent than it ever has been in the history of the world. I'm going to talk with you. Originally, this said chronic disease, and they said, well, you really can't put disease on your slide, so it's okay, I'll just talk about it. Chronic disease. We are facing this in epidemic proportions, not just here in the United States, but throughout the world. And what I mean by chronic disease is I'm not talking about communicable diseases. We're not talking about infectious disease. We're talking about things like diabetes and arthritis, heart issues, cancer. It's rampant. I'm just curious if you yourself, or if somebody that you know has one of those conditions, would you please just stand up? Heart disease, diabetes, cancer, arthritis. Look around the room. We're all standing. If it's not us ourselves, then it's somebody that we know. And if you don't know anybody that way, you will, because statistically what we know is that the morbidity of that in 2006, 17% of the population, or 34 million people here in the United States, had some type of a chronic illness in this regard. In 2024, 129 million, nearly half of the population. What's even more startling when we look at that is that 42% of all Americans who fit into that category have 2 or more chronic conditions. I just don't have cancer, I have cancer and I have heart disease, or fill in the blank. And for those of you who are visiting with us from outside of the United States, don't feel bad. 70% of the world's deaths are attributed to chronic disease. Don't tell me for a moment that essential oils are not valuable. Don't tell me for a moment that we do not need to share what we know. Don't tell me that oils are tired. I sometimes hear this conversation, and it bothers me to my core that we need to find the next big thing. I wonder what that will be. I don't know of anything that would surpass what we have accomplished and what we will yet accomplish with the essential oils. Are you with me? There's a simpleness and a beauty in the essential oils. One of the things I've admired for a long period of time is that you yourselves, me, myself, I think about when I got started with essential oils, and Emily shared her experience with peppermint. I had similar experiences where, in spite of all that I knew as a physician, everything that I knew about the human body and chemistry did not apply to any of my knowledge of essential oils. And yet I use them with great power and strength in my own home. And you have done exactly the same thing. When somebody tells you that you are not qualified somehow to talk about essential oils, walk away and go do your good work anyway. There's power in the simplicity of our message, and there's power in the value of essential oils. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine by the name of Lindsay. I met Lindsay when I was in Prague in 2016. I had been speaking at Convention, and I came off stage, and as I came off, Lindsay was in the background. And Jordan at that time said, "Would you talk to her?" And so I did. I spent some time with her. I shared with her some simple things that she could do that would focus around essential oils, that would focus around good, healthy nutrition, and gave her hope that perhaps she could change the outcomes of her life. In 2013, with the birth of her second child, Lindsay began to suffer from a devastating illness and now found herself in a wheelchair where she could not really carry out the daily activities and the things that she would like to do. Lindsay sent me a note recently, and this is what she said. "For me, doTERRA is about hope, wholeness, and being given back to my family. I'm deeply grateful for the blessings these products have brought into my life." And how is Lindsay doing today? She's had a third child and is living her life. She came into my office not too long ago, and I had not seen her for a while. And as you can imagine, I meet, I don't even know how many people. And as she walked into my office, she said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "You look vaguely familiar." In my mind, the alarm bells are going off. "Security, security, somebody come quick." And she goes, "The last time you saw me, I was in a wheelchair." And I said, "I do know you." And we reacquainted ourselves. What I love about this story is that I actually did nothing for Lindsay. She did it herself. Just like you and I on a daily basis as we reach out and as we help other people. This is Diane. Diane was you can see why legal was not happy with me. Diane was in a motorcycle accident. And when Diane returned home, she thought to herself, "I'm going to use what I know about the essential oils to try to help myself." And so she made literally just a spritz of frankincense, myrrh, and lavender, and she would spray it on her face every single day. This is where she began on day 1. On day 3, you can see the progress that was being made. On day 6, substantially better. And on day 10, something miraculous. There is this connection that exists between essential oils and nutrition. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Foundational wellness and doTERRA in general, I hope you know that we do things differently. We do things differently in the context of how we approach health. In the real world, you and I, as we face different things that are happening to us, we put them in the context of if I don't have any outward symptoms, if I can just manage those, then somehow I'm perfectly fine. And that is, in the mainstream view, how we would approach health. Not in a derogatory way, it's just how that framework works. In doTERRA, we think of it differently. We're trying to build a construct of normal, healthy, functioning cells because you know that our body is comprised of trillions of cells which make up tissues, which make up organs, which make up body systems, and allows us to function optimally. In that context, if this is our approach to health, then it stands to reason that we need support for our cells, and that is what we're doing. And in fact, your cells need two primary things, and only two primary things. We need good communication. We need communication that goes from one cell to another, and we need communication that comes to the cell. The other thing that we need is we do need foundational nutrition. We don't get the option of bypassing that part of the process. For years, I have wondered about the connection between these two things implicitly, knowing that if I don't have good nutrition, then my cells can't function properly. Knowing that if I have miscommunication or a lack of communication, my cells can't function properly. There is a pathway that we associate with this that we've talked about many times. And I want to put this thought in your head just for a moment. Is it plausible to believe that if we give our body what it needs, it does have the ability to heal? Because the equation is the opposite of that, says when we don't give our body what it needs, it breaks down. Our body doesn't function well, and we don't have health. And so it stands to reason that it is within our power. Now, I know that we talk with you a lot about all the things that we do in science. And this afternoon, you're going to hear more about some of the sciences in doTERRA. We do that for lots of reasons, which I'll explain to you this afternoon. When we talk about science, this is called the signal transduction pathway. It's not the only pathway. It's just as representative of what we want you to understand about how and why we are approaching cell communication in the body. We have chemical messengers. Chemical messengers can come from one cell to another. Chemical messengers can come from outside of the cell as well, essential oils. Chemical messengers interact with the cell, and that in and of itself, once they have bound to the cell, stimulates secondary messaging within the cell, either produced by the cell or messengers that are transcribed into the cell. Essential oils do both of those very effectively. And then we have change in cell behavior. We change motility. We change metabolics. We change epigenetic outcomes. We affect the human genome, all at the cellular level. We win and lose our health one cell at a time. And then we do have cell-to-cell communication. Now, here's a really good example of how I would demonstrate that. We love peppermint oil. We use peppermint oil for a lot of different things. When we use peppermint essential oil, internally, it causes a reduction, in the flow of calcium into the cell, and we have relaxation in the smooth muscle tissue, simply when we use it internally. When we use the essential oil aromatically, we affect a very specific ion pathway which changes and creates a neurological response within the body through the limbic system and the central nervous system. And we have excitability that takes place within the cell. And then finally, when we use the essential oil topically, we bind to a very specific channel that increases the amount of sodium and increases the amount of calcium that's present in the nerve cell, which creates a cooling sensation. Everything that happens in your body is just chemistry. What's fortunate for you and I is the essential oils are just chemistry. Chemistry that's known to the body. Chemistry that will and does change outcomes with consistency. We know the essential oils to be chemical messengers. We know that they have individual chemistry that has affinity for different types of cells and structure and function within the body. And we also know that essential oils upregulate and downregulate cell pathways. Can you tell me anything else that you're aware of? Is there a lip gloss on the planet that will do that? Essential oils, my friends, are simple. Because of their simplicity, they're powerful. They're recognized. They're known by the body. Essential oils is the big thing. Essential oils is who we are and who we will remain. I'm going to ask you to do something for me. It's time to be vocal. It's time to start sharing your message. It's time to no longer stand in the darkness and say, but only if I could talk about essential oils, I could make a difference in someone's life. Will you please start talking about the essential oils with boldness, with courage, with implicit strength that says, I know I can help you.